Yo, what's good everyone? Today I'm going to be taking a first look here at this Week 4 NFL DraftKings main slate. Let's dive right into it. And like I always do here in these videos, I'm going to go position by position, talking about the plays that are sticking out to me here early in the week. I'm recording this on Tuesday morning, and then to wrap up the video, we'll put together a first look cash lineup and a first look tournament lineup. With that being said, let's dive into the quarterbacks here, and I have 6 quarterbacks that are sticking out to me initially, 3 cash game quarterbacks and 3 tournament quarterbacks. On the cash game side of things here, I'm looking at the top with Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, and Jaden Daniels, 3 quarterbacks who bring that rushing upside and safe floor that I'm looking for out of my cash game quarterback, and all 3 of these guys have some good matchups this week as well in week 4, starting here with Jalen Hurts playing against the Buccaneers, who we saw Jaden Daniels run all over in week 1. Bo Nix ran well against them last week 2 and actually beat the Buccaneers, which was a bit surprising. Now, obviously losing A.J. Brown has really hurt this Eagles offense in general, and we do need to keep an eye on Devontae Smith as well, who left last week due to concussion protocol. I believe Smith will play here in week 4, but again, let's keep an eye on that. Assuming he's good to go, I like Hurts here at this price of $7,200. Again, especially considering how well quarterbacks have run against that Buccaneers defense. And then this game here between the Cardinals and Commanders, I think we can go with Kyler or Jaden Daniels. Obviously, you save a little money there going with Daniels, but I love this spot here for Kyler and the Cardinals offense, considering how bad that Commanders defense is. But Jaden Daniels here, man, $6,500, 28 DraftKings points in 2 of 3 games, double-digit rushing attempts in all 3 games. That's really what I'm looking for out of my cash game quarterback. Now, I mentioned that I like 3 quarterbacks here initially on the tournament side of things as well, starting with CJ Stroud. Have to imagine the Houston Texans are going to bounce back this week against the Jags after getting beat up by the Minnesota Vikings last week. A lot of different stacking routes that we can go here with CJ Stroud, and I'll talk about that once we get to the wide receivers. I also like Joe Burrow here. I expect them to bounce back after losing to the Commanders last night. Threw for 3 touchdowns in that game, 300 yards, and a really good spot there against Carolina. $6,600 for Joe Burrow. And then scrolling down here in the 5K range, we got to talk about Sam Darnold. Now, he did have an MRI on his knee on Monday. Sounds like he's going to be good to go here for week 4 in a big divisional game against the Green Bay Packers, but 2+ touchdowns in every game so far, 4 last week. I'm not saying there's going to be shootout potential in this game between them and the Green Bay Packers, but what I do like here is the price at $5,700. Far too cheap in my opinion for a guy who has 8 touchdowns through 3 weeks. Now, moving on to the running backs here, and I got 3 cash game running backs that are sticking out to me at the top, 2 GPP running backs, and then 1 value cash game running back as well in the 5K range that we'll get into in just a minute. But starting at the top here, we got Saquon Barkley, Breece Hall, and Alvin Kamara sticking out to me on the cash game side of things here, with my preferred plays being Saquon and Breece. Now, again, just talked about this Buccaneers defense, haven't been great against the run, lost V to V in week 2. Saquon's been really good here as well, 36 DraftKings points in 2 of 3 games, getting heavily involved in the passing game, and 17+ rushing attempts in every game so far as well, so I do like him. I also like Breece Hall here, really similar volume with this guy. You can see 16+ rushing attempts in 2 of 3 games, heavily involved in the passing game there as well. He's seen at least 5 targets in every game, and I do like that spot there against the Denver Broncos defense, who are much better at stopping the pass than they are the run. Now, I don't necessarily love the matchup here for Alvin Kamara, but again, we're talking about another running back who's going to get a lot of volume in the running game and in the passing game, and that's truly what we're looking for when it comes to our cash game running backs. But on the tournament side here, I think there's some guys that are kind of sneaky good this week, starting with Bijan Robinson. I think he's going to get overlooked with all these other names here at the top. $7,400 is pretty expensive for a guy who hasn't topped 16 DraftKings points so far, but again, we're talking about another guy here who's going to get a lot of volume, not only in the rushing game, but he's also involved in the passing game. You got another divisional matchup there against New Orleans, and we saw Barkley run all over that defense just last week. And then we're going to go with a revenge game narrative here in Aaron Jones playing against his former team in the Green Bay Packers. He talked about it last week with this Minnesota Vikings team. He says there's something special here, and this is another guy, not to sound like a broken record, who's just heavily involved in this offense, not only in the running game, but also in the passing game. 6 targets here in back-to-back. I really like to see that. And then scrolling down here in the 5K range, one guy that's sticking out to me from a value perspective is Chuba Hubbard here of the Carolina Panthers. Now, I know it was a small sample size, but this Panthers team and offense in general looked significantly better with Andy Dalton under center at the quarterback position. You can see here 21 rushing attempts last week, back-to-back games now with 5 targets. Considering the price there at $5,700, I like that as well. Now, folks, before we dive into the wide receivers here, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Will take you 2 seconds to sub. It's completely free to do. We got 4,000 of you here now on this channel, looking to get to 5,000 next. Make sure y'all are a part of that. All right, now diving into these wide receivers here, I'm going to break the top plays into 2 different tiers again, just like I did last week. So my tier 1 plays are Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Marvin Harrison, and Rashee Rice. But I kind of like my tier 2 plays just a little bit better based on their pricing and matchups. That's going to be Nico Collins, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. Now, from a cash game perspective and really a tournament perspective, I really like Nico Collins and Chris Godwin, but especially from a tournament perspective, I like Mike Evans. Now, we saw this Eagles secondary play much better against the New Orleans Saints last week, but I'm still a little skeptical based off of what I've seen so far from that secondary in the first 3 weeks. So really like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They'll be looking to bounce back after losing to the Broncos last week, but that's really how I kind of break out the top plays here into 2 different tiers. And I know most of you watching this video are well aware of how good these guys are, so what I wanted to do here is really highlight the value that stuck out to me, starting with Brandon Ayuk here. Now, I know he was disappointing last week. It was really the Juwan Jennings show, but let's not overlook the 10 targets there. Now, we do need to keep an eye on George Kittle. Sounds like he could be back here in week 4, but I know that Deebo Samuel's not going to play this week, so Ayuk should still be a focal point in this matchup against New England, so I do like him at that price there at $6,400. But let's talk about the man here in Juwan Jennings at $5,600. 12 targets last week, 11 receptions, 175 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns, almost 50 DraftKings points. No, he is not going to replicate that here in week 4, but I really like the volume, especially considering the price there at $5,600. Again, let's keep an eye on George Kittle, because if Kittle is back, Jennings automatically drops to the number 3 option in this offense. But another guy here at the same price of $5,600 is Deontay Johnson. He's offering some nice value as well, in my opinion. Immediately the number 1 target for Andy Dalton last week, 14 targets, 8 receptions, going over 100 receiving yards, scored a touchdown as well. This is kind of what we expected out of Deontay Johnson. No, we knew this Panthers offense wasn't going to be great, but he should have been the number 1 target from the start. And again, we saw that last week with Andy Dalton. So I like him at that price of $5,600. Again, offering some decent value. And then speaking of value, one more play that I want to highlight here is in the 4K range. That's going to be Darnell Mooney. Now, we've seen him play really well here in the last 2 weeks with Kirk Cousins, 7 and 8 targets. You can see they're 15 and 18 DraftKings points, considering the price there at $4,400. One of the better value plays that stuck out to me at this position. And then we got the tight ends here, and notoriously the tight end position is pretty ugly, but boy, oh boy, is it gross here in week 4. You got McBride in concussion protocol. Travis Kelce's a pop star at this point. Don't love the matchup there for Bowers. Kittle's coming back off a hamstring injury. Hawkinson's still out. First guy I want to highlight really is Cole Kmet. Saw 11 targets last week with Caleb Williams, and I do like this matchup against the Rams. Probably more of a tournament play, but I don't mind that price for cash either at $4,400. But I'm dipping right into the 3K range here for this week. I'm hoping something really pops out, because again, it's just so gross looking at the tight ends right now. But I'm looking at Conklin and Gesicki here in the mid 3K range. Conklin played really well last week, 14 DraftKings points, kind of a safety valve for Aaron Rodgers. Same thing here with Mike Gesicki. He's played well here in the last 2 weeks, 5 and 9 targets, 4 targets in week 1. I don't even mind that. And then if we're really looking to save some money here, it's strange for me, the Jacksonville Jaguars, assuming that Evan Ingram is not going to play here this week, 5 and 6 targets in his last 2 games, and really affordable there at $3,100. And then wrapping up the positional plays here with the defenses, we'll keep this short and sweet. From a tournament perspective, I do like the Jets here going against Bo Nix, Steelers going against Anthony Richardson. Scrolling down a little bit here, I don't mind the Vikings, who have looked so good under Brian Flores. 13 DraftKings points in every single game so far. I like the Vikings even more if it's Malik Willis at the quarterback position this week, but I do believe that Jordan Love will return. And then if we're looking to save some money here, it's the Broncos in my opinion. You can see there's 6 DraftKings points in every game so far, 2+ sacks in every game. Really got after Baker last week. So if we're looking to save some money at the defense position, I like the Broncos there at 2,500. All right, now let's put together a first look cash lineup here, but just want to remind everyone too that I am running this free Discord channel. If you haven't joined that yet, I highly recommend you do so. Got a great group of people in there, close to 700 people talking DFS on a daily basis, as well as talking their favorite bets. If you want to join that, there's a link to do so in the description below, as well as a link to join in the pinned comment below. Let's start off here at the quarterback position though when it comes to our cash game lineup. Like I said, I like Jalen Hurts here. I would prefer to get up to him, especially if Smith is playing, but I like the value that we get here with Kyler Murray and Jane Daniels too, so I'm just going to start with Jane Daniels considering he is the cheapest. Now at the running back position, I would love to get in Barkley or Hall as a top tier running back. I'm going to start it with Breece Hall there, and then I'm going to go save some value with Chuba Hubbard. Really love the volume that he got last week with Andy Dalton under center. Now going over to the wide receiver position here, I'm going to put in Nico Collins. I just want to highlight here the targets that he's got in his first 3 games, 8, 10, and 10, and I really like that matchup there against Jacksonville. Let's go down here to Brandon Ayuk too. I'd be okay going with Jennings if we wanted to save some money. Again, let's keep an eye on the Kittle situation this week. And then I'm going to save some money here with Darnell Mooney in the 4K range. All right, what does that give us left over? $4,000 per player. I know I can save some money here at the tight end position, so let's put in Strange there at $3,100. And let's just go to the defense. Let's put in the Broncos as well at $2,500. So that gives us $6,400 left over for the flex position. I highlighted Aaron Jones as more of a tournament play, but boy, he's been involved in the passing game as well. 6 targets and back-to-backs. Got a little revenge game narrative there. For a first look cash lineup, I don't mind that in the flex. Now let's put together a first look tournament lineup here. I really do think the Houston Texans come out and just beat up on the Jags this week. So let's do a Houston Texans stack. We'll start it off with Stroud. Let's go a double stack there with Nico Collins. And let's pay up for Stephon Diggs as well. He saw double-digit targets last week, albeit against his former team, but if both him and Nico can see close to 10 targets in this game, they could easily both go for 20+ DraftKings points. Now let's go back to let's run it back here in this game with a cheap play. We'll go with Strange there. Assuming that Houston gets out to an early lead, Jags got to play catch-up. He sees 5 to 8 targets. I'd be okay with that at that price. Now let's go back to the running back position, and I'm going to go back to Aaron Jones here and do a little defense stack there with the Minnesota Vikings. Now, let's go back to the running back position. I'm going to pay up for Bijan here, and I know it's getting expensive. $4,700 left over per player. That's actually not horrible. What I didn't mention earlier, talking about the Jets, Breece Hall is going to be super popular this week. Garrett Wilson is likely going to get shadowed from Pat Surtain. That could leave some targets here for Allen Lazard, who's actually played well in 3 games. 27, 14 DraftKings points. Don't mind that at $4,300. What does that give us left over? $5,100. I didn't really highlight anyone in this range, but if Devontae Smith does not play this week and A.J. Brown is still out, we could go with Dallas Goedert here, who saw 11 targets last week and went for 30 DraftKings points. Plus, you go a little double tight end there in your tournament lineup, which usually always makes them unique. All right, everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's have ourselves a great week here, folks, and in the meantime, I'm out of here.